What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
All right, welcome to Truth Be Told with Tony and Dean, the Monday edition. We want to thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to have a great show for you today. I'm Tony Sweet, and we have Dean Ryan in the house.
Tony, great to be here. It's such a great day today on Monday. It was a long weekend. How was your weekend?
It was great. You know, I had a really kind of a quiet, busy weekend. You know, Saturday I just chilled. I actually caught up on Netflix, and for those people out there that want to watch Stranger Things, have you seen that?
What is it?
It's not a movie. It's a series, 8 episodes, season 1 of these kids that are in a small town, and there's a government facility. It's kind of like up our alley, a government facility outside the town. And then apparently they were doing experiments on humans, and mind control. Mm-hmm. And it ended up opening a porthole to another world and brought in a creature that started feeding off the locals. Really? And so the children, one of their friends got taken, and so they were on the search to how to get their friend out of the other side. So it's really great. I mean, it's really I didn't think I'd like it at first.
What's it called?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
I'm going to watch that while we do the show, actually.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's actually, stuff we talk about all the time
That's
here.
That's right. Even off air, we talk about it.
All the time. Yeah. But what about you? What'd you do?
I was at the La Jolla International Fashion Film Festival in San Diego. And it was just incredible. I saw, if you can imagine what fashion photography is, and we all know that, we've seen it in magazines. Mm-hmm. Imagine what that is on film, and it's basically a lot of short films. Some of them are a minute, some of them are 10, and it's very artistic, very fashionable. Some of them are just short movies with fashion-influenced pieces in them. And it brought in fashion designers and filmmakers from all over the world. I met people from Amsterdam. I met the head designer, or one of the head designers for Lady Gaga.
Oh, wow.
I know you're a big fan.
Wow, I am.
I met some filmmakers
from
Brazil, met some cool Russians and people from Ibiza. It was really awesome. I went there representing a new film I'm doing, which I can't talk about just yet. But I went there to actually celebrate the arts. I used to be heavily involved in fashion years ago on the production side. So I saw some familiar faces, did the red carpet. You know,
I saw some pictures. You look good there.
Thank you. No Botox, no filter.
Yeah.
And
they wouldn't leave you alone after that, would they?
Just paparazzi everywhere. Was also representing, this show here and talking about it, and met some really cool people, models, you name it, from all over the world, and I loved it. La Jolla is a really nice little town in San Diego County.
Very wealthy.
Have you been?
I have.
Wealthy or to the town?
Wealthy, not yet.
Yeah, but you've been there. You've been to La Jolla. Yeah, it's beautiful. Really, there's some military because it's close to Camp Pendleton, but it's a cool little place if you ever get a chance to go. And then check out this fashion film.
So I always said this is what's funny is that that was kind of your industry for a while.
Right. And
then you kind of came over to the alternative media. I think that's very fascinating to switch from fashion to this type of media.
Well, artists in general, musicians, designers, we're kind of thinking outside the box. And to be in the alternative media, you have to think outside the box. You can't there's nothing mainstream about what you or I talk about. You're not going to hear that on, the world news tonight. So it was kind of a natural transition. However, full disclosure, I was a broadcast journalism major in college. So it's kind of round robin how it all happened. Not that I was seeking out to do what we're doing. It kind of just
found you.
found me, it landed in my lap, and
now,
no, without getting into my autobiography,
right,
which you're gonna
which is very long, then you have to look it up.
It's a good 10 pages, so
Yeah.
you're gonna have to wait for that. But it chose me, not the other way around. But that's what it's all about.
Well, and speaking of alternative media, we have a very special guest today, Max Igan, who is going to be calling in from Peru, I believe, correct?
Yeah, from the jungles of Peru, and just an incredible man. If you've not checked out his videos, they're all over the internet. And this guy, I discovered him recently, but I heard the name before, but it finally clicked to me to actually do some searching on him, and it's just incredible insight on what's going on in the news all over the world, things you don't even think about, and now you want to know more. So it's really going to be a pleasure to have him on today.
And he has his own radio show. He's a researcher, truth seeker, radio host, filmmaker, and one of the leaders of Global Awakening movement. He is from Australia, Queensland, and at the time of June 2012, he was 54 years old. So that adds up, to getting close to 60. But I think people like himself, that it doesn't matter the age, is when you're always seeking truth. I think sometimes as you get older, you start seeking truth more, just because you see the impact of how your governments and other people in your life around you. You don't pay attention to that as much as when you're 20s. So this is going to be great. But he has Max's films include The Awakening in 2008, The Calling in 2009, and Transformation. That's two separate words. Transformation in 2012, and he has a show. It's called The Crown House.com.
The Crow House.
The Crow House, excuse me.
Yeah.
And it's The Crow, and it's without an E, house.com. Now, you listen to it, and so tell us your first reaction when you heard him for the first time.
My first reaction was what he's saying. It's so articulate of everything I try to say but don't always accomplish. It's articulate, and it's so impactful. It's powerful, and it's yet said spoken very softly and subtle. And the message is very clear. And it's not always about the messenger, and it's about the message. But in this case, the messenger does a great job, and it's awakening people all over the world, this gentleman here. So I thought we'd bring him on and talk about what's going on, not only in the United States, but in other places that we kind of just take for granted. Everything's cool out there. And so, it's good insight that I think this show today, and folks, you got to subscribe to this channel, because we have incredible guests like this all the time. So today is going to be a very special show, a very special episode.
Well, we are going to go ahead and introduce him. And Mac travels across the world researching history of people, including the Palestinians. He sheds light on the global awakening as it happens. And so I think we should go ahead and introduce our guest. We have Max Igan on the phone. Max, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for asking me on.
This is going to be great. Dean, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it, since you are a big fan of his, as I.
Max, I'm a huge fan of yours. I found you, we found each other kind of on YouTube. And like I said to you the other day, I said, discovering your work for me is like discovering the Beatles albums all for the first time. And you hear one and you want to hear the other one until you get to like the Abbey Road one, and then you just want to hear it all over again. So I'm excited to have you on today. Where are you currently calling us from? Because I know you travel all over the world.
I'm currently in the upper Amazon. It's it'd be interesting to see how the internet connection goes. Actually, it sort of has a propensity to drop off without any sort of warning. So just see how we go with it. Hopefully that won't happen, but if it does, hopefully I'll be back soon.
Well, this is always the interesting part, is like the people we get to speak with from all over the world, and as Americans, we get to see what our news media and news feeds us. So it's going to be interesting to find out your thoughts and beliefs and what you see overseas or even down in South America. So this is going to be great.
Right.
Yeah, it should be fun. Be fun.
So, Max, what brings you to Peru? Are you working on a project, or is it, or are you just there on travels for friends, or business or pleasure, I guess the question would be?
Well, kind of both. Like, it's cheap to live here, and I'm kind of running out of money, so the third world's the best option for me at the moment. So there's that. Plus, I've got some friends here. I kind of like it. I like Peru. I like the jungle. And I want to get some work done on two films I'm working on. One is about the Amazon, and one is part two of Transformation, which I'd like to get hopefully finished by the end of the year. So I'm kind of here to get a little bit of time out and just knuckle down and work on the films without too many distractions.
Right. Well, this is such a highly political climate in the U.S., and you must have a different perspective, not only being in Peru but being Australian, of kind of the chaotic political atmosphere in the U.S. What is kind of your take on what Americans are going through? Between our two candidate choices and all the propaganda and demagoguing going on. What is kind of your take on the American elections right now?
Oh, look, it's a freak show. It's an absolute freak show. Like, it beggars belief. The latest U.S. elections. It's just it's like a circus. It really is. I mean, I really feel for the American people. The American people are squeezed so badly by the government at the moment, and the choices that you're given who vote for and what difference is it going to make? I mean, there seems to be, I actually went through the United States a few months ago, like in April. I went up through what many people have told me is America's armpit. I went up through, drove from Philadelphia up through to Ohio, and a very, very industrial area, a lot of chemical plants, war factories, stuff like that. And the people on the ground are doing it really, really hard. I was really amazed to see what they're actually going through. But there is a real sense of hope with people as well. But I mean, who are you going to vote for? What difference is it going to make with what you've got there? I mean, it's a freak show. I got the impression of the area of America I drove through. It was like, it looked like Mordor run by Smurfs on crack. Was my impression of it. It was disgraceful, really disgraceful. So I don't know what's going to come of this election. I mean, Hillary or Trump, what difference is it going to make? It's just going to be more war, more of the same. I think people need to really see how they're being played in America, and there needs to be some sort of a national boycott of everything, like a national strike of everything. The people just need to say they've had enough and hands down and just get some accountability. We've got a helicopter flying overhead.
They found you.
Yeah. Just as we were talking about this, the Contras are coming to get you.
Yeah. You get a lot of that here at this time of the day. It's the time of day you've called me 6 o'clock and we've got a military base not too far from here. And you get a little bit of activity this time of day. So like I said, we'll see how it goes.
That definitely is not a sound effect on our end. So that is a real helicopter. But Max, you make a really good point on the circus freak show in this country. But there's a real resurgence, if you will, of now people looking at third parties. Whether it be in the Green Party or the Libertarian Party. As an outsider from a different country, are people aware that in America there are other parties like the Green Party and other choices? Does that really get promoted on media outside of America, or is that just shoveled away like it is here on the mainstream media in the U.S.?
Yeah, you don't hear anything about it at all. You don't hear a thing about it. All you hear is Hillary and Trump and, a little bit about Bernie Sanders now and then, when it was, okay to talk about him. But no, you don't hear anything about that. And that's what you need is people to swing away from the major parties. The political system in America, it actually could work if people voted. But the problem is that, you've got to have the right candidate to vote for. And you're never going to get the right candidate because of the mechanism that exists behind what promotes the candidates and puts them in power. Now, you've got a political system in America that was put forth by the founding fathers that actually could work, if enough people participated in it. The problem in America is, people decide that the best thing they can do is not vote. And the problem with that, of course, is that the criminals do vote. And the thing with America, it doesn't matter if the whole country doesn't vote, if only 10,000 people vote. If they all vote for Hillary Clinton, then Hillary Clinton's got the presidency, even if the whole country doesn't want her, which is why they didn't vote. So they need to vote for different candidates, vote for independence or something. The problem, of course, is that you've got the things like AIPAC. Candidates can't get funding unless they sign the AIPAC pledge. And if they don't sign the AIPAC pledge, they're just going to get squashed. Nobody will ever hear about them, and they'll get vilified. They'll get attacked if they ever get anywhere because they're not supporting Israel. So that's the way it goes. So, the whole political system is compromised to begin with. If you had the right candidates, you could vote yourself out of trouble with the American political system. But like I said, it's what supplies those candidates for you assures that you can't. So you got the right hand cutting off the left, you know.
I'm going to ask you, because when Donald Trump came to the surface about a year ago, and everybody says that, I'm going to, I like him because he's not a politician. But when somebody from your standpoint, when you see Donald Trump, who's a billionaire, who's always been part of the 1%, and now he's picked one of the biggest establishment vice president, what do you see Donald Trump as? Do you see that he was actually a viable candidate, meaning he really wanted the presidency, or do you think there's some other undermining going on?
I think the biggest thing that Trump was supposed to do was give Hillary the vote. I think that people are going to sort of look at him and think, well, maybe he's a viable choice, because they're going to want to vote for anything but what they've had, and he's definitely colourful enough to get a few people. But I mean, I think when it really comes down to it, people are going to look at it, they're going to be going to sign that ballot, and they're just going to go, nah, and they're going to go the other way. I think that he's been a massive support for Hillary Clinton, is what I think. I think it's full controlled opposition. I don't think he would do anything different to any other person that you put in there. I mean, these people are bought and paid for. They're all serving the same agenda. You might say, well, Trump can't be bought and paid for because he's a squillionaire anyway. But how did he get that money? What are his contacts? Who's he rubbing shoulders with? Who does he go to parties with?
Right.
He goes to parties with the Clintons and all that. They hang out together. These people they're not rivals at all. Right. They all go to the same clubs. They all hang out together. They all serve the same agenda. It's a puppet show. It doesn't matter who you vote for. You're going to get the same thing.
Wow. So it's like one big psychological operation being placed upon the American people. And, it's very interesting to see people in the so-called liberty movement here in the U.S. now throwing all their weight behind Donald Trump and ignoring people like libertarian candidate Gary Johnson, who, you can make the case that Gary's not libertarian enough, but has some very key principles that really apply to freedom. Kind of ignoring that and going with, as you're saying, someone who could be a potential shill for Hillary. And that's very astounding to me that people that we know are not even giving the light of day to a third-party candidate. It's very interesting that you said that.
Well, it is. I mean, why would anyone vote for either of the major parties? I mean, look what you've got from the major parties for the last however long. I mean, these parties have always been in power, and all they do is stomp on you. And you think, oh, gee, I'm sick of being kicked by the left foot. I'll vote for the right foot, and that'll kick you around for a while. Then you vote for the other foot. I mean, it's the same people. It doesn't matter. The best thing you can do is go for independence or go for a third party. Just get rid of these candidates. I mean, you can't even consider someone like Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump be running for president. I mean, the fact that Hillary Clinton's even allowed to run for president, this woman's a career criminal. Right. Look at Benghazi, look at Libya, look at all the damage this woman's done. And all these emails and all the stuff that she's been, it's been found out about it now. There's no way this woman should even be allowed to run for president. She should be in jail, not running for the candidacy. I mean, it's an absolute joke. That should show people what a complete facade and what a complete joke the US political system is, just the fact that she's allowed to run. So people need to consider this and consider really what they're being offered here and realise that there are other options. They're just not being told about them. But I would suggest you vote for anybody but the two main parties. I mean, any garden variety pickpocket would be better than anybody from the two major parties. You could get a criminal off the street. Some homeless person would do better than Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump.
Well, I'm gonna bring up another point that's really come to the surface. Is I feel Donald Trump. I totally agree with you. I said this from day one. I said I totally think he's trying to get Hillary elected, and people are like, no. I'm like, I totally see it. Because they're friends. But Donald Trump has brought a lot of racism to the forefront, and I think it's given people permission where politically correct has been going on for so long that he's opened up this Pandora box of the Islamic
Islamophobia.
Yeah, right. and I and just from Mexico and everything else. What are your thoughts again from an outsider of the U.S. of seeing somebody bringing this to the surface and seeing the reaction that we fear? We fear that this was on people's minds for such a long time.
Well, yeah, it's been simmering below the surface all the time. They play the race card all the time. I mean, this is why you see, it's always if a police officer shoots a black man, it's always, or a black man shoots a police officer, it's always pointed out there was a black man. It isn't a matter of just a cop shooting someone or someone shooting a cop. It's a matter they always bring the race into it. So this has been below the surface for a long time. This is a lot of the reason why the black people have been so downtrodden, so they can play this race card. You find that there are more black people in jail, so that's because there's more black criminals. Well, no, it's because they're victimised more. And it's all presented this way and promoted this way so they can play this race card anytime they want. It's the perfect card to play. Because people think the system's real. They think the political system's real. They think all this stuff's real. And they think that they're actually losing their jobs because migrants are coming and all this sort of stuff. They forget, never even ask why need a job, why they have to pay to be alive, why they can't just do what they love and make a living out of what they love doing. They never ask these questions. So all of these things are ready to be played, but something that's really been offending me is the amount of Islamophobia that I'm seeing everywhere. With all this whole ISIS thing, all these Islamic extremists and all this, these so-called Islamic extremists are not Islamic. This is Daesh. This is a splinter group. This is not anything like Islamic. This is like calling Torquemada and the people who ran the Spanish Inquisition. So you can't call these
Max,
people
we're cutting out just a little bit, so I want to make sure we get what you're saying because this is very important. So I want to just make sure.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you might get that, but there is this whole vilification of Islam is completely unfair. And when you look at Islamic countries such as Iran, they are trying to work hard to get rid of Daesh, to get rid of these extremists. And what the United States should be doing, should be working with proper Islamic countries such as Iran to remove these extremist ideologies which are coming out of countries which are US allies, such as Saudi Arabia, which is a Takfiri Wahhabist version of Islam, which is absolutely abhorrent and everything that everybody hates about Islam. And it isn't true Islam. And this is what the Saudis are doing. And this is who's funding all of these people. And yet we're seeing countries such as Iran who's trying to speak out against this Islamic extremism, which is not Islam, it's Daesh extremism. And you've got America trying to vilify Iran. It's such a puppet show. It's such theater. It really is. This whole war on terror is so completely fake. And Islam is not. Most of these people are run by mercenary elements like ISIS. Most of ISIS is run by mercenary elements that come out of Turkey, come out of Israel, come out of all sorts of places like that. Blackwater, Z, Mossad, whoever can get involved. That's where a lot of these influences are coming from. And any ragtag Arabs that they can convince to come along to their ideology, which is a Takfiri ideology, which is not Islamic. So, people...
I think we lost you there.
Well, we lost him, but he's making a really good point, Tony,
A great point.
Is that these groups like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, who's running them at the top? You look at the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Who created them was MI5, MI6, and I believe it was 1932. They just don't show up out of nowhere like, organically like some street gang and then get all the oil money and all these weapons. And, you look at Fast and Furious, and you look at this administration, who are they giving weapons to? Who did John McCain go see before we went into Syria?
Can I ask you this, Dean? Okay, so he's saying that we should be working with Iran.
The person whom you're trying to reach.
So was it wrong for Obama to make this deal with Iran or now from what he's saying, it's like, then should we maybe approach these?
I think if we're working with countries like Saudi Arabia that just they're horrible with human rights, women's rights. Same with China.
Weren't they kind of in Bush's and Saudi Arabia and cahoots? And if you remember, who called Iran the axis of evil?
Right,
was Bush.
Right.
So it's confusing.
It's very confusing.
So confusing.
It's very confusing. And,
oh my gosh!
You look at what the U.S. did to Iran in 1953. They overtook their president because he didn't want the U.S. Oil companies to come in. He wanted to give the revenue to his own people, and they did a CIA coup d'état in 1953 and installed the Shah. and there was definitely blowback, according to our own CIA. So
that's what gets me. For Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, all these Middle Eastern countries, the United States went in, and they're the ones that actually established the leadership from many, many, many years ago.
Right.
And then we all get upset when they turn on us. Or did they turn on us, or did we say turn on us?
Exactly. I mean, we're selling them weapons.
Right. So it's like, it really confuses the American people, the ones that actually pay attention. Because there's people out there that don't pay attention.
No.
At all.
They're too busy.
Let's try to get him back.
We're going to try him again. And folks, you got to understand, Mr. Egan
into the Amazon.
He's in the Amazon with anacondas and contras. And, you hear the helicopters. So
that's right.
Hey, you got me?
We have him back.
All right. Max.
It's going to drop again.
Uh-oh.
We got him back. Max, can you hear us?
I think we lost him again.
Well, this just shows you that when we're talking about something very important, the powers that be push the
there he goes. I think
the decline button.
Hey, I'm back. Can you?
We're gonna try with just audio, Max.
Yeah, let's just try audio.
We're gonna just try audio because this is so important, and what you're talking about in the kind of the run up to the creation of ISIS and these things like Al Qaeda, which was created in 1979. And Max is really on point with the fraudulent war on terror. It's more of a war on our minds. Do we got Max online? Okay, this is a live show, so nothing is scripted.
Right.
This is not Don Lemon on CNN.
But even if it's on CNN, this is somebody that knows their stuff. They're out in the world doing what most of us just read about, and this guy's in the heart of the Amazon because he's trying to create information for all of us to understand how not only our political system is run, but how the world
is viewing
us.
Right.
And so
he walks the walk.
So, Max, you can. Max, are you there? I don't think so. We'll get him call back. But if you guys, he can go to thecrowhouse.com.
Yeah.
He has his own
all
radio
his
show.
films, all his broadcasts are there. And, maybe why don't we take a break?
Yeah, let's do a break.
Why don't we take a break? We'll come back in a few minutes.
All right, we'll be back here in a second. This is Truth Be Told with Tony and Dean on Universal Broadcasting Network. It's called Grown by Nature, and I hope you guys go out and pick you up some, get a discount,
love it.
And we'll be right back.
United States Pharmacopoeia, USP, sets the standard for most food supplements and are used in over 95% of all vitamin and mineral supplements in the world. The problem is that these products have never appeared in any living tissue. They're created in laboratories and are not recognizable to the body's metabolism. Grown by Nature products are different because they use renatured ingredients, proprietary blends of essential vitamins and minerals, with cofactors of proteins, lipids, and complex carbohydrates. Over 50 studies have been conducted on renatured nutrients, and over 20 have been published in peer-reviewed journals proclaiming their superiority. As a result, Grown by Nature vitamins and supplements are now recognized as simply the best available. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829 and order your Grown by Nature products today. We are what we eat, and since we are of nature, we should eat foods in their natural form. Only Grown by Nature offers a full line of renatured nutrients. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829 because not all products are grown by nature, but they should be.
Do you suffer from anxiety, from depression, maybe even chronic pain? Well, listen up. Truth Be Told is going to tell you about a breakthrough program built on over 100 years of therapies used in America's returning veterans to help you successfully overcome PTSD, anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. The secret proven in study after study. Music therapy. The effects of music are nothing short of amazing. From strokes to PTSD, music has been shown to improve the quality of life. Now, one of the latest music therapy programs being used in America's veteran hospitals can be yours to experience for free at home and to help your own anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. Or just relax after a hard day. It's called Whole Tones. It takes music therapy to a new level. This revolutionary program makes use of specifically designed frequencies that have been shown to stimulate your body's natural healing power down to a cellular level. If it works for battle-scarred vets, can it work for you? Well, experience it for yourself for free at sweetwholetones.com. Like Tony Sweet, that's S-W-E-E-T. Go to sweetwholetones.com. Now enjoy the show. All right, this is Truth Be Told with Tony and Dean on UBN Radio. We are the Monday edition. We're trying to get a hold of our guest, Max Igan, and so he's in the middle of the Amazon. We're having a little connection issues, and we were just talking about some very, very important stuff with him, and hopefully we'll get him back online here shortly. Dean, I know you've listened to some of Max's his shows, and when you're listening to his shows and hearing some of the information he's telling you now in person, what is your reaction?
My reaction is and the root of his talks, and I do encourage people to really check him out, is self-empowerment, that we can do something, even if it's on a local level. Grow your own gardens, get to know your community, get to know your neighbors, and defeat this wickedness in our system by taking back the power that was taken from us. That we are not beholden to anybody, whether it's a federal government or a global government. We are beholden to one person. That's ourselves, and a greater power if you have that spirituality in you. And it really, I feel great every time I listen to Max's talks. It gives me that glimmer of hope that sometimes we often lose, especially if we watch all this demagoguing between the two presidential candidates. And we were talking about this off air. It's like, man, I'm just like sick of it.
Yeah, no, I'm getting to the point where
I
it's
just
like
don't care anymore.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to even get. I mean, I actually used to love debating. Friends of mine from if they're in the other party and I'm not, but this time around, it's not even enjoyable.
No,
because
I can't defend
The person whom you're trying.
Oh, so
Nope.
we're
Still having an issue.
Well, we're going to keep trying, but to highlight what you just said, if I was voting for Hillary Clinton, man, it's hard to defend her. If I was voting for Donald Trump, it's hard to defend him too. And it's like, God, it's so hard to defend your point because none of these candidates really represent me.
Right.
None of them stand for what I stand for.
And like you were saying earlier before the show, it's like don't vote for somebody because you don't like the other person.
Right.
Because there's a lot of options out there. And just listen, vote for the Green Party, vote for the Libertarian Party, vote for somebody, but know the issues, know somebody that connects with you. Because just voting for Hillary or Trump because you don't like one or the other, that's not the way we should be voting.
It's not
people
the best way forward. It's like I want to vote to put someone in the White House, not to keep someone out.
Right.
And it's really it's one big, as I was telling Max, one big psychological operation. And the American people, we are so tired. And since 9/11 in this country, it's one thing after another. And I come from this generation we were just taken back. I was an adult when 9/11 happened, and it's just like 9/11 happens. My generation gets called to the duty to go into war to Afghanistan and Iraq, which we're still there. We have a $1 billion embassy in Iraq, in Baghdad. We're still in Afghanistan. Kids today don't even know that we're still in the Afghanistan war. They don't even know we're all over the world. And we have like 500 bases. And it's 9/11, it's Katrina, it's the BP oil spill, it's all these shootings that happened and are happening. It's one thing after another. The American people are so tired, and they're looking for some kind of leadership. And what I like about Max is he says, you don't have to look far for the leadership. You have to look in the mirror. And you have to look within yourself to find the answers. And it's really empowering. And people like Hillary and Donald are saying, well, we're the leaders. We're the ones that are going to help you, And there are some of us that say, you know what? I already have a mother. I already have a father. I don't need people like you. And that's kind of how I feel, Tony. I'm just so disenchanted with the American exceptionalism, with everything, a lot of things about this country. And people are going to say, well, if you don't like this country, why don't you get out?
I think we have
Hey
him back on.
guys,
There we go. We have Max back on.
Max, I was just
Have you
talking
got
about
me?
you. I was just talking about you. Can you hear me? This is okay. I think he can hear us, Max. If you
I can hear you. Have you got me?
There we
Yes.
go. You sound great now.
Max, I was just talking about watching your videos and encouraging people to watch them and getting a feeling of self-empowerment by the end of your broadcast, and how good it feels that the answers that we're looking for as a human being don't really lie in a particular candidate, but they lie within ourselves. In defeating the system, we have to start with localization of, can we grow our own garden? Do we know our community? Do we know our neighbors? Do we know how to take care of ourselves? And opting out of this wickedness, whether it's a global governance or a federal government that's trying to put the stranglehold on us. And that's what I love about your videos. Can you talk about where that empowerment came from, your own life, and how you discovered that?
It's just something that I've always known, I've always looked at things a little differently. I've always tried to look at things, I'm just dealing with people. Everything that I'm facing here is just people. All the legislation, everything is just people. So I've tried to have that attitude. And I really believe that if you want to make a difference in your community, you've got to get involved on the ground in your community. Start dealing with the lower level politicians. I mean, all the stuff in the high levels, all the political candidates for president and governor, all this is, you're not going to make a difference with any of this. You've got to do it on the ground level, get involved. Have you still got me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we're still here.
Yeah, we got you. Right. So, but Max, and to add to that,
I'm not.
Okay, to add to that, Max, you mentioned 8.
Look, I can't hear you.
Well, we're having really.
I know.
This is a hell of a show, I'll tell you. We're having some difficulties calling with the jungle. But Max, if you can.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about the connection here. It's just what it is. It's the worst time of day for internet here in the jungle. Is 6 o'clock, which is a shame. But according to my Skype here, I'm offline at the moment, so I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
We can still hear you, so we're hearing you.
We hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I've got all these messages all over my screen telling me that I'm offline. But anyway, so yeah, I think the best thing to do is to get involved on the ground, realize that you can deal with things with your local candidates, get to know these people, and realize all the legislation they're enacting, you can deal with it on the ground if you choose to get involved, And like I said, most of these people are supporting foreign interests anyway, and if you're smart, you can play your cards right, and you can find accountability, And actually, like when you look at the councils, it's the councils that are bringing in all the stuff that affects you on the ground in your community. It's your local councils that are doing it. Like legislation that comes in things like, you can't collect rainwater and this sort of rubbish that they try to bring in. These are all local council initiatives. Now, in Australia, we've got an organisation called the Municipality Association, and this Municipality Association hands out all the directives to local councils, and they implement these directives. And this association, the Municipality Association, gets all of its directives directly from the United Nations. So you've got United Nations Agenda 21 coming into Australia and undermining the country from the ground up through the mechanism of local councils. And this is happening in the United States as well. It's just called something different, but it's the same thing. So that's where you need to put your focus, because that's where you're going to make a difference.
Absolutely. And having been to Australia myself about a year ago, witnessing the Sydney hostage siege and all the legislation that came in like the day of and the next day of that, which is mimicking the Patriot Act that's now in the United States. It's really sad to see the route that Australia seems to be going. And it's such a beautiful country, Tony. I mean, I've been to Melbourne and Sydney and all over the place. Can you talk about kind of the way in the direction that Australia seems to be going? And you can make a case that ever since the Port Charles massacre in 1997, where they took all the firearms away from the Australians, it seems to be mimicking the U.S. little by little. Can you speak on that, Max?
Well, it is. It's mimicking the United States very much. That's the Port Arthur massacre in 1997. That's what they used to disarm us. And Australia is very much a test case, for legislation that they want to bring in and little mechanisms that they want to try. They try them out in Australia first to see how the people are going to take it, what they can get away with, and then they extrapolate it out overseas. It's very easy to do in Australia. We've got such a low population, and the people are spread out so much, and it's very Western. It's very much like America, so it's a great testing ground. It's a great proving ground for this sort of stuff. But Australia is very much turning to a fascist state. They've done it through about 90 different pieces of legislation they brought in since 9/11, and these has served to basically remove all the rights of the people, very much like what the Patriot Act has done in your country. And they haven't done it as one act. They've done it through all these little pieces of legislation along the way. It's very insidious the way they've done it. But if the Australian people don't wake up soon and start holding their government accountable in some way, then they're going to find that they're in a very dangerous place. But we've seen a big swing down there with the recent election. Like we've just had an election there as well. And around about 25% of the country pulled away from the major parties and voted independent, which is what we were just talking about you guys should be doing. And in Australia, it's compulsory to vote. You don't have a choice. You have to vote or you get fined. So, okay, if you're going to make us vote, then we're not going to vote for any of the above. And for 25% of the country to have pulled away from the major parties and voted independent is a huge show of no confidence in the Australian political systems. That's good to see, you know.
Very interesting. And Max, we only have about 20 minutes left, and I want to just kind of ruffle through all these issues. And I know you're a big advocate for the Palestinians. I know you traveled to Israel and seen firsthand what's going on in Gaza. You mentioned earlier about AIPAC really having a major influence in the political system of the United States. Is there I almost want to say an infiltration of the Israel lobbyists in America? And some say it's Zionist. And if so, number one, what is Zionist for some of the listeners that may not know what that is, especially here in mainstream Los Angeles or wherever people are listening to? Can you speak about the influence of the Israel in Americans' direction and decisions that go on? I think we lost him again.
Thought I heard him almost. Max, you there?
Well, what you've got is you've got a huge Israeli lobby, which is basically in control. Yeah, I mean, here, you got me?
Yep, we got you. We got you.
Hello?
Hello, hello.
We're good.
We're good.
Hello? Hello?
We're good. You might have to type.
You've got me?
Tony, you might have to type them. You're good. Tell them to go. This is just incredible information.
I know. Yeah, we got you, Max. Go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Yeah, well, what you've got is a huge Israeli lobby, which is basically in control of all U.S. foreign policy. That's the problem. And all these politicians have to sign the AIPAC pledge in order to get funding, and that's a huge tool that you can use. Because what you see in Israel and Palestine, I've gone through this so many times before, the mere existence of Gaza Strip is a war crime. This constitutes a breach of Article 33. You know, get whether you're on the side of the Muslims or the Jews or the Palestinians or the Israelis, just the fact that Gaza Strip exists, this is children being held in collective punishment, it's a breach of Article 33 of the 14th Geneva Convention. This gives you the arrest of every politician in the United States who signed the AIPAC pledge because they're all governed under their own legislation. It's a huge legal key that we can use. And I believe that's a lot of the reason for all this Islamophobia, so people don't look at what's actually going on there. You know, because all of America is controlled by Israel, the whole thing, the whole American political system is controlled by Israel. Why do you think these people signed the AIPAC pledge? And what is the AIPAC pledge? It pledges allegiance to the state of Israel. So you've got everybody, in order to get funding to run for office, they have to pledge allegiance to a foreign power. This is treason right from the get. So these are the sorts of ways people need to look at what's going on with the U.S. political system. And, you know, all the money and the funding that they're sending in there, this is like $7 million a day or something they're sending into Israel. It's absolutely ridiculous, the amount of money that's going in there. Look at how hard people are doing it on the ground in the United States. And all of this money is being used to carry out war crimes. It's absolutely absurd. So it's up to the people of America to call this out for what it is and to realize that this is a tool you can use to hold all of your governments accountable, all the politicians in your government, in your country for their actions. If you can just open up your hearts to the kids in Gaza. It isn't about Muslims and Jews. It isn't about Israelis versus Palestinians. It's about collective punishment and war crimes. And these are blatant human rights abuses that are going on daily, all being funded by our governments. And we can stop it any time we choose to call it. You know, and it's a huge, huge issue. It's a huge moral dilemma. It's really the greatest moral dilemma that we face. It's been going on for nearly 70 years now, the situation in Palestine. And if we don't fix it, then, as I often say, the way of Palestine will be the way of the world, because what we see in Palestine is a mechanism for warehousing and surplusing human beings. And that's coming to all our countries. And they use it to test out all their experimental weapons and all the other stuff they do. I mean, it's absolutely abhorrent what's going on there. And it's nothing like what people think. I've been there. I've seen it on the ground myself. And these people are suffering daily. And they're suffering because the media just isn't giving it any attention. And people don't know what the situation on the ground really is. So I urge people to look at what's going on in Palestine and realize that the people are holding on, and they're also providing us a legal key that we can use to heal situations in our own countries as well if we just look at it.
Wow, that's very powerful, Max. And two, I urge people to see a movie called Breaking the Silence. If you want to see what former Israeli soldiers giving testimony in this documentary of what they had to do to not only Palestinian women but children, it's just heartbreaking. And discussing it is not saying, oh, we hate the Jewish people or, down with Israel. It's actually talking about an apartheid that is going on in that region of the country that majority of Americans have no clue about. And it should be discussed because, they want to make a case, well, we don't want to perform in North Carolina because they don't allow gay marriage and so forth and all that stuff, or places like that. In Israel, it's illegal to have gay marriage. And yet we're pledging allegiance to these people, this country. And Benjamin Netanyahu is considered a war criminal in many different countries around the world. It's such an interesting, fascinating case.
But okay, I'm going to play the ignorant here because I
Please do.
honestly am right now. Because here's my question: is why are we pledging so much of our allegiance and money to Israel? What is it? Because was that the access to the Middle East? Because now we're in almost every Middle Eastern country, so why do we need them now if we're already there? So what could you tell me why we need to pledge our allegiance to them?
Well, because Israel is such a downtrodden country, because of the Holocaust and all the terrible, terrible plight of the Jewish people, and we must protect Israel because we're Christians, and that's what it says in the Bible. And really, when you read the Bible, it doesn't say that at all. And the Bible even references the false Jews who are actually the synagogue of Satan, who will take over the state of Israel. So it's all sorts of reasons, but it's just the way it is because of the control of the banking system. There's so many reasons, but your country, America, is what funds this whole war on terror, what funds this whole. And if you really look at war on terror, it's a war for Israel. So there's a pamphlet, a paper that came out in 1980. It's called For Israel in the 1980s. It was written by called Oded Yinon. If you go to my webhouse.com, you scroll down the home page, you'll find a section there called Essential Reading. And you'll find that document that outlines exactly what's going on in the Middle East right now. It calls for the balkanization, the breaking up of all of the countries in the Middle East, the flaring up of sectarian hatred between all these different factions, and the balkanizing of the whole place into smaller regions that can be easily picked off, and basically expanding Israel right out so it encompasses all the land between the Nile and the Euphrates. And that's what it's all about, and that's what it's always been about.
Wow.
And they keep the Palestinians there. They could go and wipe the Palestinians out in a week if they wanted to. They keep them there because they need this threat of terror barking right at their door, and all the funding that they need. And through control of the media, everyone knows this vast democracy in this whole hotbed of terrorists need to send all the funding in there to protect God's chosen people in their establishment of freedom and democracy in the Middle East. And it's absolutely wrong. That it's not what is going on at all.
Absolutely.
The people are sucked into believing it.
Because there is
Israel's a huge destabilization mechanism that's run by a banking cartel, and it's not what people think.
The Rothschilds, right. And you can make the case there is a wing of the military at the higher end commanding positions that are still modern day Christian crusades that are trying to preserve Israel for what they believe is the return of Christ, and they're trying to almost plague the world with the revelations so Christ does come back to the chosen land of Israel to punish the Jews. This is what certain people believe.
So we're setting them up?
In some way. But, gosh, this is it's so important. I wish we could actually hear Max even better. But, Max, why don't we just kind of cut it short because the audio is kind of breaking up. I know you got a Free Your Mind conference coming up soon. If you want to talk about that real quick and promote how people can find that and also how people can follow everything that you're doing.
Yeah. About the connection for my conference, it'll be due next April. I've just actually posted last April's Free Your Conference on my website. You'll find everything at thekrause.com. You'll find everything there. I should be doing a tour of the United States next year. In April, I should be going to Philadelphia and New York and probably across to LA and over the West. So I should hopefully catch up with a few people. But yeah, you'll find everything on thekrause.com. Hopefully we can do a show some other time, perhaps pre-record one late at night in New York.
Right. Well, Max, we're going to say goodbye to you.
Today, so sorry about that.
We're going to say
okay.
goodbye to you right here. We're going to definitely have you back on when we can get a better connection. And I'm going to plug all your stuff again. So I want to thank you for coming on Truth Be Told with me and Tony. It's just a real pleasure to have you on here and speak to you through Skype in person and kind of speak to you in anyways, but to actually introduce you to a whole new audience. So thank you for coming on Truth Be Told. And
Thanks, Max.
I'm going to talk to you off air and have you back on here soon. So
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me on. Sorry about the connection again.
all right.
Oh, that's okay. It'll work out next time. All right. Thanks, Max. Appreciate it.
And again, let me just plug in case people in here.
Yeah, please.
Max Igan is doing a Free Your Mind conference, and you can find all that information on thecrowhouse.com, and we'll have that up on the website as well. And when you subscribe to this video, this channel here, you're going to get all that info in the box. Just click on the appropriate clicking spaces.
Well, and plus, if you guys are listening to this, and like you can tell, there was a lot of technical issues, but go to his website. I'm sure there's a lot of information he's said to us that he's shared on his website and through his own show. So definitely check that out, because I want to have him back because he's very fascinating. One thing I love about him is there's so many alternative media that becomes so kind of like the Donald. They like to scare you to death, and he's just telling you the facts.
Right.
And I love facts more than fear.
You're a factual person.
Yes.
I'm just a very emotional person. So
Well, I can do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's really not to take away from what he was saying, but having researched and read and seen documentaries on what's going on in Israel, Americans, we get so bombarded with the cable news that we have to protect Israel. They're in danger, but we have to see the other side of what's going on with the Palestinians.
Right. We seem to forget the Palestine.
We seem to forget the Palestinians. They don't have firearms. They only have rocks. Kids are constantly dying. You hear about the flotillas that go over there. People like Cynthia McKinney try to, get involved in those things and try to get food to these people. The Egyptians won't help them. Their neighbors in Jordan won't help.
Why is their neighbors of their own, Islam not helping them
That's a
even
good
just
question.
to survive?
And, not all the Palestinians are Muslim, too.
Right,
There's some
right.
Christians down there, but they're being... It is a modern-day apartheid. And if, in fact, on BBC Radio, if you say the words Free Palestine on BBC Radio, and you can look this up, you get censored.
Really?
It is amazing. And I saw it with my own eyes. I'm like, wow. And it's something, and Max is such a good advocate of what's going on down there. He's so brave for having traveled there, seen it with his own eyes. It's one of the biggest blunders that goes under the radar in news in the modern era. I really think so.
Wow. Well, this was great. This is a great interview. I hope to have him back, and next time I hope to have a better connection.
Right.
But Dean, you always get some good peeps. Yeah, he always picks some good people to share some great information.
It's good to have a different perspective, because we get caught up in the echo chambers, whether it's in our own circle of friends or our own industry of, well, this candidate's great and the other one, this one. And people, we get in this false left-right paradigm, and we have to take a step back and kind of look at the whole thing as a whole. And what is it doing not only to our society and our country, but what is it doing to the rest of the world? How's the whole other world viewing that?
Because our choices here affect the world in a lot of ways. And I hate to say that we do, but we do.
We do. I've seen it with my own eyes, Tony. I was there in Australia when the Sydney hostage siege happened. It was just like all these shootings. They knew who the shooter was. He had a manifesto. He had a rifle and highly regulated no-gun areas in Sydney. They tried to extradite him 3 times back to Iran. He was in the media. It's the same dog and pony show that we see here all the time in the States. And because of that, and just like because of what's going on over here, it led to legislation like the Patriot Act that's going on down in Australia. And it's taken all the civil liberties away. And so, as a foreigner, I saw it. Some of the Australians see it, but, you get, like you said, you get caught in the scaremongering. You just don't see, you're like, here's my civil liberties, here's my freedom, just protect me and my family. We want a father, we want a mother that's going to protect us.
Right.
And this is what I love about Max Igan, is he doesn't hold punches. He has no allegiance to anybody except for free humanity. And that's so rare not only in today, but it's so rare in our industry in
true.
The free independent media. So it's we got to have them back on, definitely.
Definitely. And before we get out of here, we just have a few minutes left. I heard just recently, I think in today's news about in Texas, they now allow students in college to carry firearms.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
What do you even back in the day, in the 1800s, in certain towns in the West, they even had give up your firearms to come into town, and then when you leave town, you can get them back. I mean, what are your thoughts on actually letting students carry guns into classrooms?
Well, having spent a lot of time in Texas, it's very different than LA and definitely different than New York.
I wouldn't want to hear.
Right.
I wouldn't want to hear.
When you grow up around a gun culture, when you grow up around car cultures,
right.
When you first get a car and you grow up around, knowing where the car parts are, you know how to operate a car, you know what to expect.
Right.
Same with firearms. It's for a self-defense. And, it's very interesting to see you go to a sporting event, you go to banks, and what do you have? Armed guards everywhere. Mm-hmm. When you go to schools with our precious children in them, there's nothing. There's a security guard with a walkie-talkie. Mm-hmm. And with the increase in the so-called school shootings, Texans are saying, you know what? We can't carry a cop with us around all the time. We want to protect ourselves with firearms. And that's what the Texan people want, and they're going to try it out. And I don't think there's going to be issues with it. I mean, personally, having met so many Texans, having lived there for a little while, let it happen. Let the Constitution sort itself out. Is it going to be an okay corral? Well, that's kind of what we're seeing already in places like France and
right.
all these places where there's no guns.
So you don't think there'll be any issues?
I don't think there's going to be an issue with people protecting themselves with a firearm. Now, if it's a private business, if you and I own a bar, we have the right to say, leave your firearms up front.
Right. So, yeah.
So
what? You're saying like
an armed society usually is a polite society.
State college. What about a private college? If they say
private college is private business, they have every right to, if they don't want people wearing burqas, hats, or shirts, or whatever it is, that's their right.
Right. Well, it's going to be interesting. I'm definitely going to follow
Good
that.
Question. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that question.
Well,
I'm very ignorant.
No, I am. No, okay. All right, well, it's time to get out of here, Dean. And so I know you guys, hopefully you guys learned something from today. And if you guys want to check this out, please listen to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, TuneIn, all the podcast places, and check it out on YouTube, our Truth Be Told page.
Subscribe.
Yes.
Follow me at The Real Dean Ryan. I'll tell you how to subscribe and all my interesting adventures coming up. And
you have a lot of stuff coming up, too.
Absolutely.
And follow me on Air with Tony, and then go to truthbetoldwebtv.com. Check out all our upcoming shows, and we hope you guys had a great time and learned something from this show. So, Dean, thank you so much, as always.
Yes, thank you in the audience.
And we'll talk to you next week right here on Truth Be Told with Tony and Dean, the Monday edition. Be back next week.